Respected Managing Director of Wadi Huda Group of Institutions, SAP Abdul Salam Sir, Guest Speaker of the Day, Mr. C. Radhakrishnan, Vice Principal, and my dear colleagues, good morning one and all. I'm just trying to recall if we ever heard phrases such as the 20th century teacher or the 19th century teacher. I think even if we search the Google also, I don't think we can find such word combinations. But changing the search from 20th to 21st century brings different results. You will get 21st century school, 21st century school education, 21st century class teacher, 21st century skills, thus goes the list. So obviously, teaching in 21st century is altogether a different phenomenon. We should know what is learner-centered classrooms and personalized instructions. As students have access to many informations possible, there is certainly no need to spoon feed them knowledge or teach one-size content that fits everybody. So in order to throw the light on 21st century teaching practices, we have gathered here. So we are very fortunate to have the right person to speak on the 21st century teaching practices. He is none other than Mr. Radhakrishnan C. You might remember, sir, because he had been with our school as a resource person from the CBSE. He had dealt a topic on classroom management as part of capacity building program for teachers. So anyway, let me take this opportunity to introduce speaker for this day. So Mr. Radhakrishnan C is a passionate educational professional with 25 years of experience. He has excelled in many roles, starting from the teacher, lecturer, curriculum designer, researcher, teacher trainer, principal, secretary, and president of prestigious professional bodies and so on. Currently, he is heading a team of academicians at the Center for Education Initiatives and Research Trust as its academic director and secretary. His thought-provoking articles have appeared in many magazines and newspapers about the accolades he has received. He has won the prestigious Heart and Soul Award from the Tata Group for Innovative Integration of Technology in Teaching and many other awards in row. Sir, we are very happy to have you. So on behalf of Progressive, I extend a hearty welcome to you. I'm also very much delighted to have the Managing Director of Wadi Huda Group of Institutions, SAP Abdul Salam Sir, who without even a second thought, when I just sent the meeting ID and invitation, he accepted our invitation. Sir, we are very happy that you joined us, and Sir will be offering his heartfelt felicitations for the program. So I extend a hearty welcome to the Managing Director of Wadi Huda Group of Institutions, SAP Abdul Salam Sir. Sir, hearty welcome. I also extend a warm welcome to all my colleagues, vice president, dedicated some hours of the day for their professional enrichment. So let us lend our ears to the Managing Director of Wadi Huda Group of Institutions, SAP Abdul Salam Sir, for rendering his felicitations for the program. Thank you, and over to Salam Sir.
Respected Principal, respected Mr. Radhakrishnan, and my dear teachers, and whoever or any other people are hearing me. I'm really delighted to face you and put some words and share the ideas. And especially I will be happy to hear from our chief guest today's presentation, and I will be with you all. ഏതായാലും വളരെ സന്തോഷമുണ്ട്. ഈ കോവിഡ് കാലത്തും നമുക്ക് ഇങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ ദൈവം തമ്പുരാന്റെ അനുഗ്രഹത്താൽ ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു ടെക്നോളജിയുടെ ഒരു ഡെവലപ്മെന്റും അതിന്റെ സംവിധാനം ഉണ്ടായത്. ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ നാം എല്ലാവരും ഒരു അന്ധകാരത്തിലായിരിക്കുമായിരുന്നു. ഒരുപക്ഷെ ഈ സംഗതി കഴിഞ്ഞ ഈ ടെക്നോളജി വരുന്നതിന് മുമ്പാണ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ. എന്തായാലും കൂടുതലായി എൻ്റെ വാക്കുകൾ ഞാൻ ദീർഘിപ്പിക്കുന്നില്ല. പക്ഷേ ഇതുപോലുള്ള ഓറിയന്റേഷൻ ക്ലാസ്സുകളും പ്രോഗ്രാമുകളും ഏതൊരു ഫീൽഡിലും അതിൻ്റെതായ ഒരു സ്പെഷ്യലൈസ് ചെയ്തവരുടെ കൊണ്ടുള്ള പ്രോഗ്രാമുകളും ആ ഫീൽഡിൽ എക്സൽ ചെയ്യുവാനും ഷൈൻ ചെയ്യുവാനും വളരെ അത്യന്താപേക്ഷിതമാണ്. എസ്പെഷ്യലി നേരത്തെ നമ്മുടെ പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ ഷെയർ ചെയ്തതുപോലെ ഈ 21-ാം നൂറ്റാണ്ടില് ഇന്നത്തെ ഡെവലപ്മെന്റ് അല്ല നാളെ എന്നുള്ളതാണ് വലിയൊരു നമ്മെ അലട്ടിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. ഇന്ന് ഞാന് വല്ല കഴിവും എക്യുപ്ഡ് ആണെങ്കിൽ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ കുറച്ച് എന്തെങ്കിലും നേടിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നാളെ അത് പഴയതാകുന്ന ഒരു അവസ്ഥയിലാണ് ഉള്ളത്. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ സമൂഹത്തിലെ ഏറ്റവും അധികം ഉത്തരവാദിപ്പെട്ട ടീച്ചർമാരെ സംബന്ധിച്ചോളം ഒരു ചാലഞ്ച് ഉള്ള ഒരു കാലഘട്ടമാണ് ഇത് എന്നുള്ളത്. വെറും ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു ട്രെയിനിങ് കൊണ്ടോ ഓറിയന്റേഷൻ ക്ലാസ് കൊണ്ടോ നമുക്ക് ആധുനികമായി പിടിച്ചു നിൽക്കുവാനോ കുട്ടികളുടെ മുമ്പിലും സമൂഹത്തിന്റെ മുമ്പിലും നമുക്ക് ഉയർന്നു നിൽക്കാനോ സാധിക്കുകയില്ല. അതേപോലെ തന്നെ നമുക്ക് നമ്മുടെ കഴിവുകൾ വളർത്താനും ആ രൂപത്തിൽ മാത്രമാവില്ല. ഓരോരുത്തരും ഇൻഡിവിജ്വലായി തന്നെ ഇതിനെ സംബന്ധിച്ച് റിസർച്ച് ചെയ്യണം, അന്വേഷിക്കണം, പഠനം നടത്തണം, സ്വായത്തമാക്കണം, സംശയീകരിക്കണം എന്നാണ് എനിക്ക് ഇത്തരുണത്തിൽ പറയാനുള്ളത്. പ്രത്യേകിച്ചും എല്ലാവർക്കും ഇന്ന് അതിനുള്ള ഒരു വലിയ ഓപ്പണിംഗ് ആണ് നമ്മുടെ ഇന്നത്തെ ഈ ഓൺലൈൻ സിസ്റ്റം. അതുകൊണ്ട് എൻ്റെ പ്രിയമുള്ള അധ്യാപകരോട് എനിക്ക് പറയാനുള്ളത്, നിങ്ങൾ ദിവസവും ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ കുട്ടികളോട് ഒക്കെ പറയുന്നത് പോലെ വേദഗ്രന്ഥം അരമണിക്കൂറെങ്കിലും മിനിമം നമ്മൾ വായിച്ചിരിക്കണം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് പോലെ നിങ്ങൾ ഒരു അരമണിക്കൂർ 1 മണിക്കൂർ നിങ്ങളുടെ എല്ലാതരം ഡെവലപ്മെന്റിനും നിങ്ങൾ സ്വന്തമായി നിങ്ങളുടെ വീട്ടിന്റെ റൂമിൽ വെച്ച് നടത്തേണ്ടതുണ്ട്. അത് വ്യക്തിഗത പേഴ്സണൽ ഡെവലപ്മെന്റ് ആവണം, നിങ്ങളുടെ സബ്ജക്റ്റിലുള്ള ഡെവലപ്മെന്റ് ആകണം, മറ്റ് നോളേജ് ബേസിലുള്ള ഡെവലപ്മെന്റ് ആകണം. ഇങ്ങനെ വ്യത്യസ്തമായ ആംഗിളിൽ കൂടി ഓരോ ടീച്ചറും വലിയ സ്കോളേഴ്സായി വലിയ വ്യക്തിത്വങ്ങളായി വളരണം എന്നാണ് എനിക്ക് ഈ പ്രോഗ്രാമിന്റെ ആമുഖമായി പറയാനുള്ളത്. കൂടുതലായാലും ഞാൻ ഇനി പറയാൻ ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നില്ല. ബഹുമാനപ്പെട്ട രാധാകൃഷ്ണൻ സാറിന്റെ ക്ലാസ് കേൾക്കാനാണ് ഞാൻ ആകാംക്ഷപൂർവ്വം കാത്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. എന്റെ വാക്കുകൾ ചുരുക്കുന്നു. ദൈവം തമ്പുരാൻ അനുഗ്രഹിക്കട്ടെ. ജയ് ഹിന്ദ്.
For your words of blessing. So now over to Radhakrishnan sir. So dear teachers, let us all lend our ears to the power packed session from Radhakrishnan sir. Sir, over to you and hearty welcome once again.
Yeah. Good morning everyone. Yeah. Good morning to Abdul Salam sir.
Good morning.
The managing director and the principal Sujitra ma'am. All my dear teachers, it's so nice to be with you once again. I had been there, I think, before 2 years for a CBSE program on classroom management. With the Somin sir, I remember it. With the Somin sir, I had been there for 2 days. It was a wonderful experience. Now back again with another professional development program. This itself shows the commitment of the management, how much they are interested in developing the teachers. As Sujitra ma'am has rightly pointed out in the introductory address, that we are in the 21st century. 2 decades have already passed, and we are at the threshold of the 3rd decade. And do we continue with the practice of 20th century teaching? Whether the last 20 years we could change. And it's very important for us to ponder over it, whether we could change during the last 2 decades. Because not many changes has happened in the world during the last 20 years itself. Whether we updated ourselves on that, or do we continue with the old teaching style and mode, then it is not going to work, as Abdul Salam sir has pointed out. Change is constant, but do we update ourselves? Do we devote time to read, to research, and update our skills? If we didn't update our skills, we will become obsolete. Sharpening the saw is very important. A farmer used to brush, used to polish his tools on a day-to-day basis. Why? To perform better next day with the tools. Same is the case of teachers. What we are going to deliver on a day-to-day basis to the children, if we want to improve upon that, we have to update ourselves by spending time intentionally. Why I say intentionally? We are all busy in this world. So intentionally, if we didn't decide, that is not going to happen. Even Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, has got only 24 hours, but he does what he wanted. In the same manner, we also have 24 hours. We are not so busy with the President or the Prime Minister and all. So it's possible for us to take out little time and do some research, reading on a day-to-day basis. Because just by attending 1 or 2 workshops, you are not going to be updated. Because in workshops, what happens generally is they give you a lot of hints through which you can update yourself. Even now we are on an online mode. So here also we have only limited time. Within that limited time, today I can tell you a lot about different teaching strategies, because Sujitra ma'am was emphasizing on 21st century teaching practices. So I will be introducing to you 5 to 6 teaching practices that we can follow in the current decade or in the current world. And these teaching strategies are mainly based upon 4 C's. And we'll deal with what are those 4 C's. So the teaching strategies I am going to discuss today is based on the 4 C's. How 4 C's can be imbibed in the children. Without 4 C's, children cannot survive. Our children cannot survive. So first of all, we have to know whether we as teachers, do we have those 4 C's? If we don't have the 4 C's, how are we going to inculcate those 4 C's among the children? So let us move on to my presentation. I will be sharing the presentation now. Then we will go along with the presentation. So please hold on. So I hope you are all able to see my slide.
Yes, sir, we are able. We can see.
You are able to hear also. There is no issue with audio or video.
No issue.
Okay, you are able to. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I will be taking this session. In between, there will be questions that the teachers have to answer. It will be an interactive session to an extent. It won't be an interactive session like in the normal workshops, but I will try to make my level best to make it interactive. In between the sessions, there may be questions. And whenever questions are there, teachers can try to chat in the box. Chat box can be used and you can type your answers. And sometimes I may be asking a question. You can unmute your audio and you can answer. There is no issue. And if you have questions, at the end we will address the questions. I will be taking the class. At the end, I will be keeping 10 to 15 minutes. You can ask the questions and you can clarify your doubts related to the topic or anything else. Whichever I can answer, I will be answering. So in that way, we will be proceeding in this particular session. So as I told you, we will be discussing about 5 to 6 teaching practices that is most suitable for the 21st century. And I was talking you about 4 C's. So let us start the interaction first. Teachers can use the chat box and type the answer for this question. Whatever you know, there is nothing wrong or right. Don't worry about it. What are the 4 major 21st century competencies we have to develop among the children? Teachers can start typing on the chat box the answers that you feel. Yes, I can see Jasima has written social skills. Teachers can start typing whatever you know about it. Then Munira has written courage to face challenges. We are talking here about 4 C's. Okay, four major skills. That is 4 C's. What are those 4 C's? That's what the question is. If you can expand those 4 C's and write, it will be very good. Mehajabin Siddiq has written critical thinking. Then Supriya Sriju has written creativity. Rashid has written IT skills. Then Rizwana has written again critical thinking. Okay, fine. Thank you for your response. Okay, let us see now. Yes, Sindhu has written solving problems. Collaboration, someone has written collaboration. Okay, let us see now. What are these 4 C's? You can see that these 4 C's are critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity. So remember, the 4 C's that are important in the current world are critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity. So while teaching any subject, we should be able to deliver, or we should be able to imbibe these 4 skills among the children. Whether you may be teaching a language or science or maths. So the first and foremost thing to do is there should be a lot of interaction among the teacher or between the facilitators and the learners on a day-to-day basis in the classroom. The previous type of monologue won't help, because monologue is not going to help. That means the teacher delivering the lesson, teacher talking in the class throughout. That is not going to help develop these 4 C's in the children. So in what way, what strategies can we adopt to imbibe critical thinking, collaborative learning, creativity, and communication among the children? Let us move on to the topic. See, new practices. Why do we need new practices? Because changing the education environment. The world is changing, so education environment is also changing. And also we need better academic performance among the children. And at present, as Abdul Salam sir was telling, we are in a new situation of COVID-19. It has exposed us to technology. Many of us were not ready to adopt technology. But nature has forced us into a world of technology. So if we are not ready to accept and adapt, we are not going to survive. And technology can boost academic performance that it has already proved. It can help us deliver what we want to the children. So now we will move on to the first classroom strategy that we can adopt, or classroom practice that we can adopt in the 21st century. And while I discuss, I am telling you in the beginning itself, teacher cannot be replaced by technology. That is not possible, because education is all about a connection between 2 hearts. It's a link between 2 hearts. Technology cannot replace a teacher. And this heart-to-heart connection is very important. That means emotional connect is very important in the case of education. So if someone is doubting that whether technology will replace us, when we are going to discuss a lot about technology, there is nothing to worry, teachers cannot be replaced, because education is all about heart-to-heart connection. But technology can aid us a lot. It can help us facilitate learning. That's what we have to remember. Now, COVID-19 has brought us into technological world and also into edutech-based education or schooling. In that, flipped learning or flipped classroom or blended learning has got a very important role to play. Now we should know, what is this flipped classroom? What is this blended learning that everyone is talking about? If you go around, you can see that if you browse the internet or if you read newspapers or magazines related to education, everywhere we can see that people are talking a lot about flipped classroom or blended learning. What is this flipped classroom or blended learning? We can see that. In flipped classroom and or blended learning, teachers prepare the materials in advance. That means lesson planning play a key role. Whatever strategy you are going to follow in the classroom, in all that, lesson planning has got a very important role to play. Planning and preparation, without that we can't succeed in the classroom. Now when we are talking about flipped classroom, again the planning and preparation is very important. Because what we do is almost all the primary educational material or primary materials needed for a child to learn a particular topic are sent to the child in advance. That means before our class. Suppose I wanted to teach a particular lesson tomorrow, or I wanted to teach a lesson on Monday. It may be anything, whatever it is, whatever is the topic. Now, today we are celebrating. Now, suppose you see, today we are celebrating Ganesh Chaturthi. I'm taking a relevant example. This is what we used to tell. We have to correlate in day-to-day life. Today, we are celebrating Ganesh Chaturthi festival. Suppose you are dealing with a lesson on independence movement. How independence movement can be connected with the Ganesh Chaturthi. It's a point to think. Then whatever materials needed for that, you are giving to the children today itself. You are giving them information about important leaders of independence movement. You are giving them ideas about, or you are giving them materials about Bal Gangadhar Tilak and how he tried to integrate Ganesh Chaturthi with independence movement to enlist the support of the people for the independence movement. So how he tried to integrate all that materials you are giving in advance to the children. And if there is any film related to Bal Gangadhar Tilak or independence movement, you are sharing that also with the children in advance. You are creating some PowerPoint presentations. You are sharing it with children before you teach. So what I am telling is, in flipped classroom, to have a flipped classroom, you are preparing your study materials. Now we were discussing about Independence Day movement. And Ganesh Chaturthi festival is going on. So we wanted to connect. I wanted to teach that same thing on Monday. So I collect all the information regarding that and I hand over to the children in advance today itself. And I am telling the children, you go through all these materials and study yourself at home. You read, you watch video, you watch the presentation I have given, all that you are telling. So a self-directed learning takes place. Today is the age of self-directed learning. So children go through the content, whatever materials you have given. And to an extent, they prepare themselves and come to the class on Monday. And after coming to the class, you are discussing briefly about the same thing and asking the children, what are the things you learned? You get certain ideas from the children. What they have learned, they share. Even for that, you can circulate a worksheet or something you can circulate. Or a questionnaire or something you can circulate. When you circulate a questionnaire or something, naturally children write what they learned. So you get a basic idea what they learned, whether they went through and all. And after that, in the classroom, you use the time for application of knowledge. And also you may be understanding from the questionnaire you supplied, how many children understood, how many children need scaffolding. So you again divide the children into groups and all and discuss about the same topic in the class. And you help the children learn by using different strategies. And those who are weak, you get enough time to spend with them. And sometimes you may be able to have peer teaching, because there may be some children who got the points, what you wanted to teach from the pre-learning experience itself. So you get more time in the classroom to prepare skill-based things and also to help individual children based on their abilities. This is what happens in flipped classroom. Now, skill-based learning about Bal Gangadhar Tilak and independence movement you were teaching, Ganesh Chaturthi and all. So children learn to an extent from home itself, and you are again guiding in the class in the beginning. After that, immediately you are going for activities. You are telling children, prepare a small presentation of your own presentation. You are dividing the children and giving one group. Okay, you prepare a small presentation on the role of Ganesh Chaturthi in independence movement and how Bal Gangadhar Tilak has connected it. A group is going to make a presentation. And someone else you are telling, can you write a song or a poem or something related to the topic you have learned? And for some others, you are telling to prepare a poster on in a chart paper. That means a lot of skills you are trying to impart there through flipped learning. You get enough time because most of the children learned at home. And you find there are 2 children who need additional help. So you found that 2 children in the class, they are well equipped with the content of the lesson. So you make them engage with the weak scholars, and peer teaching takes place over there. So what is the ultimate benefit by this? You get plenty of time in the classroom to interact with the kids and also engage in skill-based learning. That's what happens. Now, how it takes place in the class, we can see now. See, this is the flipped classroom model. This is the flipped classroom model. And the most important benefit is optimized learning. The most important benefit of flipped classroom is optimized use of time. That means the best use of time in the classroom. That is the most important benefit of this flipped classroom. It helps us to meet special needs. It helps to meet special needs of the children. As I was telling you, in the classroom, there may be different types of children. Some children may need additional support to learn. So what you can do is those who have completed learning at home and with your primary guidance itself, pick the topic. You can arrange for peer learning between bright children and a weak scholar. So a peer learning takes place. So naturally, children will communicate and collaborate. And at the same time, teacher can spend time with other learners who need even advanced learning. That means who need more to know or are interested in learning more points or more about the same topic. You can spend time with them. And also you can help the children, those who are doing some skill-based project. That means those who are engaged in making a PowerPoint, or those who are preparing a script for a drama on the topic, or those who are preparing a poster. You can guide them by giving them some guidance on how to draw, how to make a poster, or someone is preparing for a flow chart on the same topic, that you can help and all. So in lot of activities teacher can involve if we are going for a flipped classroom. That means you can have even specific tasks are given to the children and you can help the children on specific tasks. Because primary material you have already given to the children and they have learned. So in the classroom, you will be doing more application-based programs. So remember, the basic concept of flipped classroom is we use online and also offline mode. So see, by flipped classroom, the teachers are able to engage more time on application-based activities in the classroom. And also we will be able to meet special needs of the children based on their multiple intelligence or their learning abilities. We can help the children to learn on their own pace. And it is again, it is a self-directed learning. And the current scenario, now we are into a COVID situation. Now we don't know if at all the regular school opens. We may be getting less number of days sometimes in the school. Why less number of days? Because social distancing can become a norm. Even after school reopens, after the number of COVID patients come down, social distancing we may have to follow. So sometimes the government may be telling us that only 50% of the children can be called to school and 50% cannot be called. That means on alternate days, odd and even numbers sometimes we have to follow. On a particular day we can call even numbers, on another day we can call odd numbers like that. At that time we have to practice this flipped classroom, there is no doubt. Because you are going to get only, suppose 6 days are working days in your school, you are going to get only 3 days with a group of children in a week. So if you are using flipped classroom, that means on and offline mode, you can send study materials to the children in advance. Children learn and come back to the class. And you can give the necessary support in the class. In that way, you will be able to deliver the lessons without any problem by using flipped classroom. So you are giving materials to home, children are learning and coming to the class on alternate days. So whatever support they need, that you are providing. But the most important aspect to make flipped learning practical is the teachers have to prepare well their lessons and prepare the study contents, PowerPoint, some videos, or you have to browse and find something, and all these materials should be pulled together in a planned way and shared with the teachers. That is the most important thing. So now I hope you got an idea about flipped classroom. Could you get an idea about flipped classroom? Some teachers can unmute and tell me, are you able to understand about flipped classroom?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Whether you will be able to practice it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You are clear with how to go about flipped classrooms, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So can we move to the next practice?
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now we will be going to another one, that is project-based learning. Another mode that is very important in the 21st century, that is project-based learning. You might have been heard about it as PBL. So now we can see what is this project-based learning. There are different stages in the case of project-based learning. It helps the children acquire key knowledge and skills. Key knowledge and skills in the sense the 4 C's can be imparted very well in this particular model also. Like we have seen in the flipped classroom, here also a lot of communication and collaboration takes place. So children do things on their own and teacher becomes just a facilitator. You have to remember always when we are discussing about the current teaching practices, you have to remember always that we are going from a monologue to a facilitator's role. Our role in the past was a teacher-centered classroom. We were talking throughout in the class. Now in the 21st century classroom, what happens is we become just a facilitator, a supporter, a scaffolder of learning. We move away from monologue and there will be multi-talk in the classroom. There will be a lot of dialogues, discussions taking place in the classroom. Now we can look into this project-based learning. And as I have told you, this is one of the best methods to impart critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and the problem-solving skills among the children. Now we can see different stages of project-based learning. We can see different stages of project-based learning. And for implementing project-based learning, first, we have to ask why on a particular topic in the classroom. Now we can take an example. And we can go ahead with this process. How we can introduce project-based learning. We can take an example. Now we are all into the COVID-19. We face a lot of problems on account of COVID-19. So we ask the children, why COVID-19 became such a serious problem? We are asking the children a question. We wanted to have projects-based learning on the topic COVID-19. So our topic is COVID-19. And we wanted to have what? A project-based learning on COVID-19. So we go to the class. As a teacher, you are going to the class, you are asking the children, why did it spread? Why did it spread? And why did it become a threat to the whole world? Why are we into lockdown? Why are we not able to come to the school? Why we are forced to opt for virtual learning? Such type of questions we ask. So from this, you create a primary discussion in the classroom. So children tell different reasons why it spreads. Children start telling different answers. It is spread, some children may say spreads through the air, some children may say by physical contact, some children may say spread through water or food or something else like that. And there is nothing wrong or right. So whatever answers children give, those answers again create plenty of questions. So there will be a lot of answers and also questions. Once when you get into the primary discussion after asking a question, you can see there why on a topic. The next stage you can see primary discussion, and primary discussion generates many questions again. Because some children may say it spreads through air. I have read it somewhere. Then some others may say, no, it didn't spread through the air. Then again the question will come, why? So like that, plenty of questions will come. So each and every child in the classroom will be thinking about it. So we created an environment of thinking and lot of voice in the classroom. So curiosity is created. And one of the most important aspects of learning is creating curiosity. So now whomsoever asks the question under the curiosity of why, to get the answer. And those who said the answer, they may wanted to prove they are right. So a lot of thinking takes place and a lot of discussion takes place again. So now what do? You group the children with the different tasks. You group the children of your class with the 5 to 6 in one group like that and assign different tasks. Then within the group they again start discussing. Within the group they again start discussing. They again start asking questions and again start putting the answers. And to find answers, whatever task they got, based on that task, they start asking questions, discussing it, researching it, they go reading newspapers or magazines, they go browsing to find the answers. Now you made different groups. One group is got widespread task I am telling. For example, some task I am telling. One group can be given widespread. Then another group can be given, how can we prevent the spreading. Then another group can be given, what will be the impact on education or on schools, what will be the impact on our economy, how it affects relationships, what type of pressures may be there, or what type of hardships or what type of mental pressure it may create, what will be the employment scenario in the country, how it affect the health of senior citizens, Young children, like that, different tasks you can give to different groups. So all these groups sit at different places and they start discussing about the task they got. They discuss, they collaborate, they research on the questions they got or the task they got, and they try to find answers. And after finding the answers, each group presents within their group their answers. It's a discussion going on. They present the answers. They ask questions, they present. Then naturally there will be feedback from within the group. One child is giving a particular answer. The other child may be giving his comment. That comment is the feedback to that child. So a lot of discussions, feedbacks and all keep on going. Then after that, after all these discussions, and they will reach into a conclusion. Okay, these are the points we have to take. They analyze whatever they got and they critically analyze it and they reach into a conclusion. Okay, these are the points we have to include in the task given. Then they make a video. One group decides, okay, we will present it through a video. Then that group will start working on the video. Sometimes it may be infographics, or they may go out, or they may enact something and shoot the video. The other group, they prepare posters. They prepare posters for the audience. So, suppose preventive measures, how to prevent spreading. On that, they may be preparing certain posters. The other group will present the whole thing to an audience. So they will prepare, they will see how it should be presented to an audience. In that way, different groups do different things. Then what is the role of teacher? You may ask me the question, what is the role of the teacher? Here you can see that you initiated the discussion in the beginning by asking a question for problem-based, for this project-based learning. Then you have initiated the discussion. You will be scaffolding the children, helping the children to create a valuable discussion. Then you are helping the children to divide themselves into different groups based on their skills, talents and all. And you have to ensure that while grouping in each and every group, there are different types of kids. Then you help them while asking questions, to frame the questions, to frame the answers. You help them to research on it. You give them sometimes some of the links. Okay, these links you can visit. You give them sometimes some magazines. These magazines you can read. Like that, you scaffold. And you give your feedback also. When the group members are giving feedback on the answers or the points they found, you give your feedback also. You correct it. You guide them to prepare it properly, reach a final conclusion of each of the group. So you do, this is the role of the teacher in that. Then the group presents, when the group start making, suppose one group is preparing a video, at that time also you help them. Suppose they need help, you tell, okay, you can contact the IT teacher, and you call the IT teacher to the class. You help them, okay, you help him in making the video, infographics or something like that. You again scaffold them. Some teachers are preparing the poster, you help them. You tell them some ideas, they may be having some ideas, you again brush up those ideas and help them. That you can see everywhere what you are doing is you are just scaffolding the children. Then the third group has to present it in front of the audience, whether it may be for other class children, or maybe to parents, or maybe to teachers, or whomsoever it is the audience. So you help them, you guide them how to present it, or you polish the way they are trying to present it. You help them in that. So what finally you can see the accomplishment and celebration. That means children prepared, discussed and prepared a project on COVID-19, and they discussed and created a presentation that they are going to present. And the final presentation that will be, that means what they are going to present in front of the audience, that will be a uniform one that is created by all the groups. Whatever all the groups created, that the third group will be pulling and presenting to the audience. So the presentation time is the time of accomplishment and celebration, because children will feel what we presented is our own contribution. So here what we can see is self-directed learning. and you just become a scaffolder, you are not going to talk throughout. And the ultimate result, we have seen accomplishment and celebration, and the ultimate result, that is the 21st century skills. That is the 4 C's. That is critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. And you can see now, how children have the opportunity of collaboration. You can see during the primary discussion, they collaborate each other. During group tasks, when they get group tasks, at that time also, they collaborate for finding answers, for researching, for browsing. And again, you can see while preparing posters or making videos, they contribute and discuss in different ways. And you can see while giving feedback or while finding answers, they may be getting lot of things, but they may be critically analyzing it and finalizing what points they have to present. And communication, that happens every time, each and every time that happens within the group. The creativity, you can see at the time of finalizing their topic, what they are going to present, there will be creativity. And you can see while making video, there will be their creativity. While creating posters, then while creating dialogues for presenting or anchoring, while preparing the script for anchoring for presentation, if they are going to have a role play at the time of presentation in front of parents, for that they may be preparing script and someone may be directing. So everywhere you can see creativity also. Now, you think, suppose this COVID-19, we have taught through the traditional mode, what happens? If you think, you can see that, you will be asking the question, why? You will be asking certain questions. You will be eliciting 2-3 answers. After that, you will be going on explaining why it spread, what are the precautions, how it impacted different areas. All these things you will be doing. So finally, what happens? There won't be any accomplishment or celebration for the children. And what they are learning, there won't be ownership also. So the children forget after 1 or 2 days. Now here what happens, whatever they learned it by themselves, by peer learning, peer assessment and all. Giving feedback means it is peer assessment. Naturally what happens, they remember it for a long time. Now you may ask me whether this type of learning will help in exams. Of course, because there is no need of mugging up. They have learned through their practices. So absolutely they will remember and they will be able to answer any type of question because they discussed and decided. And they presented it also. Presentation is a type of teaching. So generally they remember it. They own whatever knowledge they had on COVID, they have on this COVID-19. So this is the way a project-based learning to be undertaken. So dear teachers, my question, some of you can unmute and tell me whether you got an idea about project-based learning and do you think it's useful to you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it can be practiced, no? Even with the students, in a even with students, 40 students in a class, you can practice it. What do you think?
Yes, of course, sir. Of course, sir. Because we are making groups, no?
Yeah. There is no
So
need.
work.
Yeah, tell me, ma'am.
So it works, sir, because 40 children means if we are taking 5 or 6 children, we can make groups and all can participate. That's the benefit of this group discussion.
Yeah. And what happens? The teacher stress reduces, right?
Of course, sir.
Teacher stress reduces. At the same time, the indiscipline problem that we face, especially in senior classes, can be controlled very much because children become responsible, right?
Yes, sir.
Children become responsible. And what another benefit you can see that now what we see is children are not equipped for getting a job, right?
Yes, sir.
Or they are not able to perform a task. Why they are not able to perform a task? Because we didn't train them in the class in that way. We made them to sit quiet in the class. We never allowed them to work on their own, right?
Yes, sir. We will get more ideas. As a teacher, we will get more ideas from students also because their thinking level is almost different from others. So we will get more ideas from each one.
Absolutely, you are to the point. You are to the point. So that's why we are telling we have to. It is time for us to move from move from our monologue to multi-logue. Let each and every child discuss and debate. And that is one more thing you can see. If you are going for problem-based learning, one more thing, one more benefit you can see is whomsoever we brand as weak or low achievers will start performing here.
Their confidence level will be rise.
Yeah, their confidence level will be high. Such a children will be very active in drawing or in acting in the drama or preparing a PowerPoint in technology. And all those children may be very, very interested or very much, or what I can say, they will be very enthusiastic, right?
Yeah.
Naturally, what happens is they will involve in learning more. So even weak scholars, you can get the attention of weak scholars and we can improve even their performance because it's based on multiple intelligence because different types of tasks children get. So you are accommodating the interests of differently abled or differently talented children, right? All the intelligence children can be pulled over here, their talents can be pulled over here. So each and every child's interest can be met by problem-based learning or project-based learning. So teachers, please adopt these strategies in the classroom and move away from the monologue teaching. That's what I wanted to request. So I hope you are clear with this. So we are moving to the third one now. Now we have discussed about flipped learning, a teaching practice of the 21st century. Next is project-based learning. Now we are moving to another one, that is collaborative learning. We will move to collaborative learning. And almost all these things are interrelated. Almost all these techniques that we use in the current age are interrelated and there is only slight difference. Now flipped classroom we have seen. From flipped classroom, project-based learning is little more different. Now we are going to collaborative learning, otherwise called as cooperative learning. Collaborative learning, otherwise called as cooperative learning. And the ultimate message of collaborative learning is stronger together. That if we stand together, we can achieve any target. That is the ultimate objective of collaborative or cooperative learning. This you can understand very clearly. We have plenty of cooperative banks. What are these cooperative banks? People in a particular region are standing together with their small amount of share and they create a huge fund. And they are stronger so that they are able to get fund from other sources too as deposits from many people. So they are able to cater to the needs of the members of the cooperative bank, account holders of the cooperative bank. In the same pattern, if you think, collaborative learning is stronger together. Here what happens? All the group members or all the members of the class contribute their talents for a particular objective. In a cooperative bank, to help financially those who need support. For that, we create cooperative banks in the region. Here in the classroom in cooperative learning, each and every child contributes their talent the way they can for an ultimate, for a common cause of learning a particular topic or subject. So here also a lot of collaboration and involvement among all the children takes place. It improves the attention span of the children. Collaborative learning improves the attention span or attention skill of the children. It improves involvement and acquisition of knowledge. Here we create teams of 3 to 6 students with a specific role. Each child will have specific role in a group. Then the final goal is always common. Suppose in a class there are 6 team means the final goal to achieve will be the same for all the group members and also for all the teams. That is what is called cooperative learning, collaborative or cooperative learning. Now we can see components of collaborative learning. what is this collaborative learning is all about, how it can be a working model in the classroom. Now you can see we have to first make assigning students to mixed ability teams. We have to create a different teams in the classroom, and these teams should have mixed ability students. That means students with a different talents. Then establishing positive interdependence. Then when we have different children with the different abilities, they have to depend each other for completing the task. Then this teaches the children cooperative and social skills, how to cooperate each other. We will go with an example, just wait on that. Then ensuring individual accountability. Each individual is responsible for something. Then helping groups process information. Did they process? The whole group sit together and process information. This is what happens in a collaborative learning. Most of the time in collaborative learning or cooperative learning, there can be a round table in the beginning. Round table means all the group members of different groups sit around a table and discuss about what they need to do or what they have to do. Now suppose for this, you take for example, a badminton court has to be made in the school, a badminton court. Now take for example, we are going to take a physical education topic here. A badminton court to be made, and you know, it should be drawn properly. There are a lot of measurements, angles, height, area, lot of things to be considered while creating a badminton court. And lot of geometrical measurements involved or geometrical principles involved in the creation of a badminton court. Angles, you have to see angles, you have to see correct dimensions, you have to see its straightness, and also you have to see in which direction it should be, what should be the height of the net, what should be the height of the pole, what should be the length and breadth of the courts, how different lines to be made, how back box and front box to be made, how side box to be made, what should be the length. Lot of geometrical calculations are involved. So you make children sit together in a round table along with the teacher and you discuss about the same. And the physical education teacher can call the geometry teacher too. And geometry teacher and the physical education teacher sit together with the children and discuss about how to create a badminton court in the school, how to draw it on the ground. A discussion takes place. And while discussing, what happens is, you tell them very clearly, these are the tasks assigned to different people. So there may be some people, teams interested with collecting the materials. So those who have to collect the materials, they have to decide about the budget, how much money needed for collecting the materials. So they need powder, they need materials, they need poles, they need a net, different things they need. So they have to prepare a budget on that. And again, they have to find from where they can get it, how they have to, whom they have to contact, and all these that team prepares. So you guide them. Then another team has to work on and find what should be the length, the width, all the measurements they have to plan. And another team has to plan the correct space where it can be fitted or where we can draw, and how the ground can be prepared there to draw. So that group does that particular work. So I hope you are getting an idea how cooperative team works. And the ultimate objective, I told you there will be a common objective. What is the common objective? School should have a proper badminton court. A proper badminton court. So you have assigned a different task to different children and they all work together. One group prepared the budget, they went and pulled, they got the materials, Another group prepared the measurements. Another group went for preparing the field, or they found where it can be made and how the ground can be leveled, how the rocks or stones, pebbles, etc. can be removed from the area, and all. Another group. Then finally another group decides, okay, another group is meant for drawing. So here all you can see that different children with different talents are engaged in different groups and working on it. And they are not going to draw directly into the pot. They will be first drawing the measurement in a paper. And anything we wanted to create in life, first we create it in our mind. Suppose we wanted to create a house, wanted to make a house. What we do, we draw it in our mind first. Okay, my house should be like this. My house should have 2 bedrooms. My house should have a drawing room, a sit-out. And this may number of attached bathrooms, and all we decide, we draw it in mind. Then later it comes to the paper. After that only we start constructing the house actually. In the same pattern here, the children draw it in their mind, then they put it on the paper. Then finally, the whole team means the whole class go to the ground and draw. That is the ultimate objective of the cooperative learning or collaborative learning project. Then they go to the ground with the support of each and everyone. By using the layout they created in the paper, they start drawing it. Then finally the cart materializes. Now you may ask whether they will be able to do. Yes, they will be able to do, because we teachers are there to scaffold them. We guide them time to time. We help them by providing the right websites. Okay, you can visit these websites. Sometimes if they are not able to find the shop, you are telling, okay, from this particular shop you can get it. If you are ordering online, from these sites you can go and get it. So all this scaffolding is there, but main role is played by the children. Then finally, they go to the ground and draw. There also, if something children cannot do, we call someone from outside. The teachers help them call someone from outside, and those laborers also support the children. And finally, the card becomes materialized. That is the ultimate objective. That is, we should have a badminton court. Now the benefit of this court won't be spoiled by the children. That is the ultimate benefit of this. They learn the geometry by that. They learn budgeting skills. They learn collaborating skills. They learn how to go and shop, either online or offline. They learned how to discuss and make it. All these they learned. How to collaborate, how to critically analyze, and in between there may be problems, how to solve it, because some of the materials they are not able to get, or the hooks they are not able to weld, so they have to find a welder. There may be challenges. All these challenges they overcome, problems they solve. And my dear teachers, this is what 21st century children need, life skills. And if cooperative learning is there, that is possible. And again, I can tell you, these type of cooperative learning or flipped learning or any type of strategies we are discussing, it won't be possible if we sit compartmentalized. If the subject teachers think compartmentalized thinking. Teachers also should have collaborative thinking. This is what I told in the beginning. We should be ready to work as a team. There is no geography teacher, there is no geometry teacher, there is no English teacher, physical education teacher or music teacher. Everyone work jointly. Then only cooperative learning or this type of 21st century teaching practices can be implemented in the school. In this itself, you have seen, you may be needed the help of a geometry teacher, you may need the help of drawing teacher, you may need the help of the physical education teacher. So all these teams join together and they create ultimately. And even the blue-collar people also in the school, working in the school also may be needed. You may need the support of a school accountant. That means a commerce teacher. So all the teachers, the whole team of the school work together for a common objective with the children. That is what happens in collaborative learning. So I hope you got an idea how cooperative learning can be implemented. And when when the court get established, you can see the happiness in the minds of the children, and that court will be owned by the whole school, and no one will try to spoil it because it is owned and created by the children. When it is created by the children, they will have the ownership on it. When they will have the ownership, they won't try to spoil it. And they will make use also, many children will get interested in playing that game because they involved in the process of creating it. So many of the children will be interested in playing badminton also once we start practice. This is another way of 21st century teaching practice that is called cooperative or collaborative learning. Now again the same question, whether we will be able to introduce it in our mass admission schools in the sense where 40, 50 children sit in the class, whether it will be possible to introduce. What do you think? What is your feeling?
Yes, sir, we can introduce, but I have a doubt, sir. Like
Yeah.
collaborative, it's mainly depends upon the skill development. Actually, the drawing of a code is being discussed here, right? So it
Yeah.
has been related to skill development or the PBL, that is project-based learning. Is there is any connection with that? Almost all the 4 C's has been discussed here too.
Yeah, what I am telling is almost all these things are to an extent correlated. Okay, because the ultimate objective is developing 4 C's, right? Imbibing 4 C's.
Yes.
And cooperative, and if you compare the project-based learning and cooperative learning, what is the difference you can see is here, the whole team comes together at the end. The whole class comes together at the end. There will be collaboration between teams also.
Okay, sir.
You can see, and it can be applied with the subjects also. I have taken the example of physical education, that's all, but you can take it for subject topics also. There is no doubt that can be done.
Okay, sir.
Or in maths or in English, where you can apply cooperative learning, because here also peer group, peer learning, everything takes place.
Okay, sir. Nowadays, CBSE introduced like collaborative projects works to be given according
Yeah.
to subjects wise, right? So
Yeah.
certain topics to be selected, and where physics, chemistry, and maths, social, all the subjects to be joined together, and all
Yeah.
like one topic itself should be distributed among the different subjects.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
that can be an example of this collaborative learning, I think.
Yeah. And now new education policy, onwards, they are telling integrated learning. Right from KG onwards, it is in interdisciplinary learning. This is what interdisciplinary learning is. Suppose in maths, in geometry, you are teaching something, you can even integrate that with the dance. Because in dance also there are different angles, different postures, right?
Yes, sir.
Different circles, different, you can see when you see a particular dance, you can see different postures, and in all that also different steps, different timings, all these things are involved, right?
Yes, sir.
So that I am telling this cooperative learning and integrated learning can be applied. And in the when new education policy comes into being, it will be very important for the teachers to involve each other irrespective of their subjects, because it is interdisciplinary learning, especially after from 6th onwards, it is interdisciplinary learning. There won't be sometimes subjects even when it progresses, when the new education policy progresses. There may be challenges, but when it progresses, there won't be. Now you can see, if you look into Finnish curriculum, Finland is the first country taking away all the subjects from schools. There is no particular subjects now. They have decided that there will be only interdisciplinary learning. So there is no subject at all in the school, like social science, English, history, or geometry, or algebra, like that. There are no subjects also even now. According to their new policy, there are no subjects even, only interdisciplinary projects. They give a lot of interdisciplinary projects every year. And children have to teachers and children have to sit together and so on. That's what new education policy also intended to do. But how much it will work in our country, we have to wait and see. So updating ourselves, whether it works or not, as a teacher, it is our duty to update ourselves, otherwise we will be in trouble. If we go with the present structure, we won't be able to survive in the field. That is more important. So you got the point? Yeah. So I think you are, to an extent, you are able to understand what are the components of collaborative learning, what are the benefits of the same also. And you may find most of these things I am discussing similar, mainly because the ultimate objective of all these teaching practices are developing 4 C's. That means 4 C's, that means critical thinking, collaboration, communication, creativity. These are the ultimate objectives. And skill based, these are all skill based. Yeah, we are moving to the next. Is it okay?
Okay, sir. We can move to next.
Now we are moving to another one, a slightly different one. We are moving to a slightly different one that is related to technology. Now we are talking something related to technology. Till now we were discussing about cooperative learning, collaborative learning, flipped learning and all. Now the next one coming is gamification. Gamification is another important type of teaching mode popular in the world. In gamification, what happens is integration of game mechanics and dynamics in the learning process. Integration of game mechanics and dynamics. Now, what is this game mechanics and dynamics? That is what we have to understand. In gamification, what we can see, suppose we are playing a particular game. There are different aspects while playing a game. Suppose you take volleyball or something, there are different rules and regulations for that. And there are different dynamics playing in that. And ultimately what happens, they learn lot of theories. In whether it is volleyball, whether it is football, whatever it is, there are a lot of theory they have to learn. But all those theories children learn through game mechanics only. Suppose you take cricket or volleyball. Everywhere you can see different people are having different rules. That means, see, suppose we take this one, volleyball. You can see a net man. You can see a center. You can see 2 back defenders. You can see a spiker. You can see a minus. All these things you can see. And each and every person has got their own role. But most of the time what happens, no one teaches them in a class what should be done. Through game mechanics they learn. A setter in the net knows it is his duty to give lift to the spiker. He knows. And the lifter and also or the net man and also the spiker knows well it is the minus and all know well that it is their duty to block when the ball comes from the other side. And the center knows it's the duty of him to lift the ball to the setter. And the defenders, back defenders also knows they have to help in picking the first ball. That means each and every person has got different rules that they all know from the court by playing different roles. The same dynamics we apply in the classroom to learn different theories. And suppose in physics, we wanted to teach a particular subject, energy. We are taking a topic called energy. There are different types of energies and how the energy works at a different environments that we wanted to teach. At that time, what we do, we apply the game mechanics. Now we know there is a kinesthetic energy. There are different types of energies. So these can be taught by role play in the classroom by using gamification techniques. I am telling 2 types of gamification here. One is the traditional type of gamification. Another is the modern type of gamification. First, we will discuss the traditional type, then you will naturally understand the other type of. Then in this gamification, what happens? You keep, in a traditional pattern, you keep a particular child as an object. And you tell another child to push him. So what happens? He uses some energy. Due to that, the child moves. When he pushes, the child moves. Or we take a ball to the class and we start bouncing it in the class. There is a particular force used so that the movement of the ball take place. In that way we teach. Here what we can see, game mechanics are applied, dynamics are applied. So in that way we teach. Now in the current scenario, what happens? They have digitalized these things. They have used artificial intelligence, then augmented reality and virtual reality, etc. And they created games in the computers. And children can play it. And while playing on the computer, they will be applying these game dynamics while playing on different things, and they learn. Now suppose maths. There are different types of game mechanics the software developers used, and they created different gamification tools. And when children play those games, children understand it better. Suppose some of the game, there are jigsaw puzzles, there are different types of things. They move numbers here and there, and they learn in primary classes. In higher classes also, they have applied such type of gamification techniques, and they develop different games. And on online, the children can play these games. And depending on the result, teacher can understand whether the concept is clear for the child or not. And the present day children are very much addicted to games and also technology. So naturally what happens? Children enjoy it. And if you want to better understand these gamification techniques, you have to visit some sites and use the modern gamification tools developed by different edutech companies. At that time, you will understand how it works, really. If I go on explaining also, it will be difficult for you to understand. So one thing you have to understand, the game mechanics and dynamics we use in gamification. And in traditional classrooms, we used it like a role plays. In that form we have used, but in modern times we have integrated it with the technology, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, multi-reality, and all we are applying and developing different games. We can see it in detail, in more detail we can see it. See, if we look into this, you can see offline mode, how to gamify your classroom in offline mode. In gamification, what you have to choose is, first you have to choose a goal. What you want to do, or what is the ultimate goal of learning that you have to fix? What do you want yourself students to accomplish? Is there a behavioral or habit you want to impart to them? It can be behavioral, it can be academics. What is the goal you have to set? First, what they have to learn. And according to the set goal of learning, you have to fix different milestones. And how can you divide your goal into achievable steps? That means a vision should be divided into missions. How you are going to achieve that goal. And each and every accomplishment or each and every stage to the goal should be fixed. And design your game board, and a game board should be fixed in the classroom, and you have to monitor. And whenever children reach a particular stage, you have to reward them, and those points should be updated in the board. This is the traditional mode. How will students be represented in your game? Design awards they can achieve. So each stage you are giving them certain awards. So these awards work as encouragement. This is what happens in sports. When a cricketer takes first wicket, there will be celebration. He is rewarded at that time itself. Whatever support he gets from the audience, that itself is a reward for him. In the same pattern, on each stage, you are rewarding them, you are helping them, and you are rewarding them. Then create badges. You can create badges and give to the children. Sport appreciation can be designed and given to the children at each and every stage. Then you can have a design board in the classroom. And in that classroom, you can put the name those who reach a particular stage. You can put up their names over there, stars over there and all. It is very good in primary and middle classes. Then what happens is finally they reach the goal. When they reach the goal, you can have an ultimate prize for that. So you are designing a particular learning objective, and that learning objective you are fixing different stages. When the children reach each stage, you are rewarding them. And this reaching each stage and rewarding, that is the gamification, that is the gaming dynamics. So children get encouraged to go to the next stage. That's what happens in traditional offline board. So there should be a soft board in the class to coordinate all these, and there should be some badges or something you have to create, even stars. This badges means even stars will help, different size stars, different color stars, all will help. That is the one part of the traditional mode. Then when we are moving to the online mode, in online mode also we can do all these things. There are different type of softwares available, whether it is Kahoot or ClassDojo or Typeform, or the most popular one now for maths is Prodigy Maths. So if you can use any of these softwares, you can conduct it online. Now it is a COVID scenario. So children can do a lot on these online modes, because almost all these companies are having CBSE syllabus integrated into that. And suppose you take like a software like Maths Prodigy. If you talk about Maths Prodigy, it is a free software. For the schools, it is a free software. The Maths Prodigy team itself gives the demo, how to operate it, how to conduct it, teacher training, parent orientation, all that they give free of cost to schools. So if you are interested, we can go for such type of thing. Then teachers can also understand well. Children can also learn mathematics at home without any problem. Even evaluation part, the software will take care. You can very clearly understand whether the children understood what you taught in the classroom of maths. And again, what concepts are not clear, what type of remedial to be given. All these guidance you will get when you go for Maths Prodigy like softwares. And the Kahoot is also there, ClassDojo is there, Typeform is there, but some of the softwares you have to pay for it, but some of them are free of cost. So if you go for a free of cost software, it will be wonderful. And how to get that software, I can tell you how to get those software also. I can guide you. If the school is interested, you can talk to the team and you can get it. I will tell you. We will complete it, and after that we will come to that. Then you can set frequent classroom competitions. When you have such type of softwares, whether it is paid version or free version, teachers can set home tasks in the software and children play it at home, the game on different concepts. And most of these software companies or the package companies, they help the teachers to set their homework targets based on the lesson they are teaching. And all the gamification technologies they included in that. So those who are playing, they will be able to understand those math concepts better through that. And you will get individual result of the child. What is the level of learning of each child from the software itself? It comes just like a report card. Even that report card can be shared with the parents. That is also possible online. So teachers have to set frequent class competitions in this software. Then challenge individuals using smart targets. And these software companies itself will set smart targets to the children on the lessons they are learning. So every time you can praise them, there will be rewards also online. That is possible. Then create levels of learning which students are encouraged to apply. And these levels also, there is no need of tension for the teachers. If suppose you are going for Maths Prodigy or ClassDojo, means the company might have been created already in that. There will be a formatted one. Based on the lesson you are teaching, you have to just integrate it. Then you can send it online. And the rewards you can send online, badges or awards or certificates, you can send it online. You can share to the children online in the WhatsApp, by using the WhatsApp group, or by email you can send to the children. And when you are going for such type of softwares, means naturally within that it is inbuilt. Through the inbuilt software itself, you can send badges and all to the respective children. Then display cumulative scoreboards with the weekly prizes. So they give you the weekly report. Suppose in algebra you are teaching a particular lesson. That lesson's game will be there in the gamification software. And children will be playing it. Those who understood the concept will be able to score more points or will be able to successfully complete the game. So naturally the score will be there. From that you can understand who are the children understood the concept, who are the children not understood. And when you are going for a software, means naturally that company itself will guide you which are the children's need support, and what remedials can be done, what type of remedial games can be given to that child. Everything the software will suggest you how to just use it. The teachers have to just use it. And you may doubt who will give you training. Once you are opting for a software, that software team will train your teachers and they will orient the parents, also students, how to go about it. Now, coming to an online mode. This Mass Prodigy is a free software. It is free of cost. If you visit www.prodigygame.com, you can get into this software tool, and it is free of cost. And this is very engaging curriculum aligned with the math platform. And I can say I have used this particular software for last 2 years, and it is wonderful. It improves learning skill of the children. And not only that, math is generally a boring subject for the children. Most of the children hate. But once we introduce Mass Prodigy like a software, children will really start enjoying math projects and also math curriculum. And in Prodigy Math, what you can see is the whole thing is integrated with the CBSE curriculum. So for each and every chapter, they have aligned programs or gaming included. It's available for grade 1 to, according to my knowledge, yes, grade 1, especially for grade 3 to 8. Now even they have started for grade 1 onwards, they have started now this year. So in that way, they have integrated the whole ICSE, CBSE curriculum into their software. For each lesson, suitable games are there and all. And it comes completely free of cost. So that I am recommending Mass Prodigy. If your school wanted to introduce, you can contact me. I can introduce the people who are there in that company, because we are following it for last 2 years. It is wonderful one. Prodigy Math it is called. It is a Canada-based company. They have came to India since last 2 years. They are working with the children. And the benefit also, you can see what student get, what teacher get, what parent get, what the principal get. You get a weekly report, also monthly weekly reports you get. So math teachers can also understand how it benefits and each and everything. And even they provide you the training, not only training, even they provide you the report cards. Those report cards you can share with the parents, and also all the badges and all online they serve. And all the homeworks are also set in the software itself. So you can look into that later. If you are interested, you can contact me. I can tell the contact numbers and all, or you can visit the prodigygame.com. It is wonderful. I think it will be good for you if you introduce in your school. Or you can go for something else like, as we were discussing, you can go for a Kahoot or ClassDojo type form. All these are websites are available, Kahoot.com. If you go to Kahoot.com also you can. But most of these Kahoot or ClassDojo or Typeform and all, you have to pay. The free version is very limited. You have to pay. But Prodigy Math is taught completely free this year, so it will be advantageous for you rather than going for a paid version in the beginning itself. Yeah. So I think gamification also, you got an idea. We are applying gamification technology in that. This is a new mode. And when the 5G comes, now we are into 4G world. When the 5G comes, this gamification is going to change our classrooms, because online people will be, teachers and students will be able to access even virtual reality, virtual reality and all. Augmented and virtual reality and all online you can access without a server in the school itself, because when 5G comes, because that much bandwidth will be there when 5G comes. So when 5G comes, our classrooms are going to change drastically. So I think you have to start opting for some softwares for gamification to adapt your children, parents and also teachers. Otherwise, when 5G comes, it will be very difficult to survive in the classroom. As a traditional school, it will be very difficult, because 5G is going to change the whole school and classroom scenario, because people will be able to access all virtual reality, augmented reality online, because the bandwidth is too high in the case of 5G. Now we are going to another set. Now we will be moving to another one, that is problem-based learning. It is a cyclic learning process. Problem-based learning is another type of learning tool. and you can the 21st century learning tool, and it has got a, what I can say, it has got a cyclic learning process. And to an extent, you can see similarity between this project-based learning, flipped learning, and all here also. There are different stages: asking questions, acquiring knowledge, and inquiry, and all here also it comes. So we can see it in detail. See, there are different stages for this. First, here what happens is that we divide the class into small groups and investigate the problem. This group investigate the problem, then define the problem and set learning goals, then identify the learning activities and the person who has to perform them. And in this problem-based learning, what happens is we will have different groups, and different groups investigate the problem, a problem we choose, and that problem the different groups investigate, they define the problem and set learning goals, then identify learning activities and persons who has to perform them, and we assign the task to different people depending on their ability here too. Then during self-directed study, then next stage is self-directed learning, like we have project-based learning and all. Collects learning resources. In the project-based learning and all, teacher provides sometimes some of the resources. In flipped learning also, teachers provide. Here what happens, teachers are not going to provide. They just tell, guide. Then groups go and collect learning resources, studies the resources, the primary sources, they study themselves. They prepare a report for the group, and the whole group sit together and prepare a report. That is during self-directed study. Each learner collects learning resource, studies learning resource, prepare a report for the group, and each one presents the report. Suppose in a group there are 6 children. So 6 children go and collect individually the resources and they study it and they prepare it. And finally they come to the group and they present it. And after presenting, all of them sit together and prepare the final report. Share their learning with other group members, then revisit the problem, then generate a new hypothesis others based on their learning. So you have to understand, we are dividing the class into different groups. These groups investigate the problem, whatever problem they have, they investigate it. They define the problem and set learning goals, then identify the learning activities and persons who has to perform what. All these things are done by the children themselves. Teachers just become a scaffolder over the guidance from the children are very less in problem-based learning. And this is to impart problem-solving skills among the children. Then each and every children got different tasks in the group. According to that, they collect resources, they study the resources, and they prepare a report. After preparing the report, each and every child comes to the group, they discuss and deliberate on it once again. They discuss and deliberate on it once again. And after discussing and deliberating on it once again, they prepare a new hypothesis and they present the final presentation. That means the final result of the project they present. Here you can see lot of interaction, communication, collaboration takes place at the end level also. Then at the end of learning period, learners summarize and integrate the whole learning aspects. That means first there is an individual learning, then there is a group discussion. Within the group there is a discussion, then the whole team join together and prepare their final presentation by critically analyzing and preparing a new hypothesis. This new hypothesis may be different from what the individual students prepared. So in that way, problem-based learning takes place. I am not going for an example over here because we have discussed many of that examples. So from that itself, you can understand. So this is called problem-based learning. This is very much related to project-based learning. So remember the stages: first, grouping with the tasks. Then second, a learning goal is also set over there. Then second, individually they collect resources, they study resources, and they prepare a report for the group. Then they come to the group, all the group members sit together and each one shares their learning experiences. And next stage, they prepare, they analyze and prepare their final hypothesis. Sometimes an individual report will be accepted, sometimes it won't be accepted. Only few points will be accepted from that. So there takes place lot of discussions, deliberations, fights, lot of things happens. Fights in the sense there will be a debate whether that point should be taken or not. So a lot of discussion and deliberation, collaboration takes place. After that, they prepare the final presentation on the topic and they present it to the class or to the audience or to the parents or to the teachers, whomsoever it is we decide, they present it. This is what problem-based learning. Here we impart problem-solving skills among the children. There will be lot of challenges when they go across this particular one. This is another method. Why I am not going in detail, because we have discussed it to an extent. Then another mode coming up now is, this particular one. That is the design thinking. This is not in vogue that much in schools at present, but this is going to be the norm in the coming days. This design-based thinking. Design-based thinking is mainly used in industrial setups at present. You can see used by industrial designers, unique method to solve problems, individual problems of each student, innovation towards the satisfaction of others. This design thinking is used in industrial setup to satisfy or to understand how they can satisfy individual customers. For that it is used. But it is coming to school level also, and the new education policy, this design thinking is included very much. So what is going to happen is, in the coming days, we will be seeing it using in our school scenario too. Now we can see what are the steps in the design thinking process. Suppose there is a particular problem. Take for example, design thinking. This is going to be very much used in schools in the coming days as per the new education policy, so that I will tell you a small example and wind it up within 5 minutes. Suppose you have a problem. Many children are coming late to the school. That is a problem. And we decided to apply design thinking into that problem. Why most of the children are coming late? This is an example. Or you can take, many children are coming without breakfast, or many children are not keeping their books properly, or whether exams should be there or shouldn't be there. In all these aspects, you can apply design thinking. Now we are taking a point that many children are coming late to the school. What is this? Then first we empathize. The first stage of design thinking is empathizing. That means developing a deep understanding of the challenge. What is the challenge here? Many children are coming to the school late. So what is the reason for that? That we are discussing in detail. And we try to understand the challenge. Why they are coming late? Why children are not able to reach the school at the right time? Whether it is a transport issue, whether parents are not preparing the children ready, whether they are not getting the breakfast at the right time, whether the child is not getting up early, whether the child is not sleeping early at night, so he is getting late to get up from the bed. So all these things we study deeply and we empathize with them, so that the first stage is marked as empathize. We try to understand. We put on the shoes of the children, those who are coming late, or put on the shoes of the parents, those who are coming late. Then we clearly articulate the problem you want to solve. Then whatever reasons you got, you try to understand those reasons properly. You define each of those things and try how to find a solution for that. You clearly articulate the problem you want to solve. That means children are coming late. That is the problem at hand. Now you empathize, you deeply studied it. Now you classify the issues. What are the reasons for children coming late? You classify it in subtitle. Okay, these are the issues. Then you brainstorm about each of those reasons. You sit with the children, teachers sit with the children and ideate, and a brainstorming session will be conducted. And potential solutions, important solutions for solving each of the problem will be discussed. And then prototype. Design a prototype, a series of prototype or test for part of your solution. Then while ideating whatever solution you found, you discuss each of those solutions with the challenges. Suppose we found a particular solution for late coming. For a particular reason you found a solution. Then in prototype, you imagine that you are implementing it and what are the problems going to come. You discuss about that too in prototype. Then you implement it, then you test it. Engage a continuous short cycle innovation process to continually improve your design. Then you keep on brainstorming about that particular one. Sometimes a pilot project you undertake and you implement it and you try to redesign it time and again to suit your need. So you get into a solution at the end. Then you implement it. And after implementing it again, you have to come back to empathize. That we'll discuss. So remember the stages of design thinking are: you empathize, you develop, you understand deeply what is going to happen, that you understand. Then there is you define the project, you classify the reasons, then you discuss solutions, you brainstorm solutions, then you imagine you are implementing it, what challenges can come, you discuss on it, then again you test it, a pilot project will be implemented sometimes, and again you see what are the problems, you brainstorm it again, and a final solution will be made, and after that you implement the final solution. This is a stage that happens in industries for solving any problem. Now you come to the second figure. This figure you understood. This figure: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Now you come to the down figure. Here you can see you empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, and implement. And after implementing, you can see again from implementing it is coming to empathize, an arrow coming to empathize. Here what happens is, after implementing again, there will be problems. There may be different problems. Again, you go through the same cycle. You empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, again implement, again. So this goes as a cycle. So after 1 or 2 years, you find a complete solution to the problem. That is called a design thinking. It is a long-term process for finding complete solution to issues. And this is going to come to schools in the coming days, especially because the present industrial scenario or industrial setup need design thinking. Those who are skilled in design thinking only is going to get jobs in the coming days. So design thinking going to be an important aspect. So you try to implement it in your school with this basic knowledge and design thinking. If you visit different sites, you can get a lot of ideas. In brief, I have told you, because this is not possible to tell everything with examples in 1.5 to 2 hours of session. Even now we went beyond time. So that I am telling you. So whether you got an idea about design thinking now?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think you can implement it in a small scale now. Then you can gradually polish
Yes, sir.
it
Yes.
to find gaps. And we will be using different types of rubrics, set systems to find learning gaps. Then define learning outcome. We define what should the child learn. Suppose letter writing we are teaching. The outcome and where the child reach, we find it through a particular rubric. Then real examples and teaching strategies, tools and practices will be implemented for that particular aspect. And you can see in competency learning model, you can see that in competency, measure explicit competencies, then clear learning outcomes and rating systems. We should have measurable explicit competencies. That means for teaching, while teaching any of the topic, we should have measurable explicit competencies. Suppose you are teaching addition. So in grade 1, so you decide grade 1 or 2. So you decide what should be the outcome of teaching addition. Then it should be measurable. Whether single digit or 2-digit figures children should be able to add up. That is the competence you are fixing. Okay, only single digit means that is measurable. Once the children are able to add single digit numbers, you will be able to understand it. So you have set a target, a learning goal over them. And it is very specific. Single digit numbers children should be able to add. Then double digit. Then carry forward. Such type of measurable goals you set. That is what clear outcome and rating system. Suppose the child learned single digit learning, single digit addition. You test it, you measure it through a rating scale. Then children are going to double digit addition. Then carry forward. Like that, you go step by step. Then differentiated timing, differentiated and timely support. There will be different types of children in the classroom. You create different strategies for different children to teach them addition, single digit or double digit, whatever it is. So I am telling just an example. Then timely support. Suppose a child is not able to carry forward. So some children are not able to carry forward in addition. Then naturally, you provide them timely support and teach that child by using different techniques how to carry forward the thing. Suppose you are keeping a lot of materials in the classroom, and those materials you are using for counting and adding, and while carry forward you are moving and keeping that many number of things, and you are adding with the other. In that way, teaching materials you are using and timely support you are providing. I think math teachers can understand what I meant, especially those who are teaching in Montessori method and all, they can understand what I talk very, very clearly. Then meaningful and positive assessment. And there will be meaningful and positive assessment. You will be giving some well-designed worksheets or assessment based on Bloom's taxonomy to understand how much the child learned. Then wherever learning gap is there, then through the assessment you understand the learning gap. And by the understanding the learning gap, individually you analyze the assessment result. And after that, personalized learning, you understand each and every child where they stand. And accordingly, you develop personalized learning for each and every child, depending on their learning level. Because the ultimate objective is everyone in the class should reach the level you wanted. What is the level you fixed? In grade 1, children on grade 1 or 2, children should know well single digit addition, double digit addition, and carry forward. These are the target sets. So you conducted the assessment, and after assessing individually, you analyze the assessment result. And depending on the score, or you understand the learning gap. And based on the learning gap, individual or personal learning strategy you develop for each child in the class to take them to the ultimate goal of knowing single digit addition, double digit addition, and also carry forward. Then advancement upon mastery. Then after advancement upon mastery. That means suppose all the children learned these 3 techniques. Then you are advancing, you are going to 3 digits, you are going to 4 digits counting. Like that, you advances the children's learning based on the previous learning. This is called competency based learning, and this is going to come. This can be in social science, in mathematics, in science, in each and every subject. Competency-based learning will be coming in the coming days. So we should be able to do it well in the school. So to an extent we are doing it, but how much analysis and discussions takes place after the exams, evaluations and all, we have to wait and see. If teachers are ready, now I have introduced different types of teaching strategies of the 21st century. If we take from flipped classroom, then coming to project-based learning, gamification, cooperative learning, then problem-based learning, then design thinking, we have went through design thinking, we have went through finally the competency-based learning. So I could only introduce these topics to you in this particular session. For some of the things I could even share some of the examples. And in 1.5 to 2 hour session, only this much we can do, because I cannot give you real life projects that is possible only in a physical session, in a regular session of workshop. So now the teachers you are all adults, you are all grown up, you can browse through different websites and learn yourself. And there is a Diksha website by the CBSE. Each and everyone should visit. There are a lot of learning materials uploaded by CBSE itself. Each and everyone must visit. And you can see plenty of resources on different models of learning and all. And you have to develop your learning skills or teaching skills by using that. This is what I wanted to tell you. So with this, whatever I decided to share, that is almost over. Now it is, again, I give back to ma'am, principal ma'am. And again, whatever questions you have, we can spend 10 more minutes and we can discuss on some questions. We can take up some questions.
So thank you, sir. It was indeed a very informative, as I told in the beginning, very power-packed session, I can tell you. So I think definitely our teachers will have some queries related to all the topics discussed, because some of the concepts that you introduced today, gamification, design thinking, are new to us. So I think we leave the platform for the teachers to share their queries and clear their doubts. So teachers, please utilize the opportunity.
Yeah, they can tell their name. While asking, they can tell their name and subject, and they can ask their question. They can unmute their audio and ask the question.
No, sir, we really understood everything, and we will be having doubt when we implement it, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Suggest
So
good
afternoon, sir. Yeah, we understood it well, sir. Your class was very nice, sir. We have a lot of content you delivered, so we have to sit and think deeply on each and every point.
Yeah, and what I feel is these things can be implemented in better, you can understand better when you do it practically. So when
Yes, sir.
plans in future, when the school reopens, if you can have a regular workshop in the school for 1 or 2 days, I will be able to help you out in doing some projects there itself.
Okay, sir. That is what I was about to say. Yeah, after implementing, if we feel any difficulty, we request you to help us in that situation, sir.
Yeah, at that time practically we can do hands-on experiments we can do in the workshop. That will
Okay, sir.
more.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah, I have a doubt regarding this gamification.
Yeah,
So in the scenario of we are completing the portions, right?
yeah,
Every school, every teachers, the real scenario is completing the portions.
yeah.
So in this scenario, how the gamification can help us, or how it will help the children to or us to gain the learning outcome of the children as
Yeah.
teachers.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to tell you, ma'am. I can answer the question. See, now syllabus completion is one task in your hand, you are telling. And this, when you use education technology, the time you needed to complete the portion is less. Suppose you take, for example, maths. You may be teaching in the classroom and the children are applying it only at home. This gamification they are using only at home. Suppose in my school we have implemented maths prodigy. What happens? Monthly 2 periods only we devote for maths prodigy in the school. And at the same time, weekly our teacher, depending on the lessons, maths lessons completed, teachers set certain games in the software, and those games are already there in the software. You just click, okay, these are the principles I taught. You just click on it, and when you click on it, that reaches the child automatically. So children complete it online at home. Not much time they have to spend. They are all interested in gaming. So just like playing game, they use it at home and they play it. At that time, what happens is they understand the concept better and it helps you better. And also you can understand the learning gap. And it is not only that, you can select the children. Suppose you find a children learn 60% of the concept. Then 40% is left. Then for such a children, you can give less number or more number or suitable type of remedials, because that also the software will suggest you, okay, these are the gains you can give to these type of children. So naturally what happens, you click and give those children. So remedials also will take place through gaming itself. And children are very much addicted to games, so naturally they will learn the concepts better. And in maths and all, it is wonderful. Well, you can see the difference once you implement gamification in mathematics. So it will help you save time and your energy, and you can focus more in the classroom for solving solutions, or in the board exam class and all, means for solving previous question papers and all, you can spend more time. So it will help you reduce your stress in completing portions. And at the same time, the concept will be better for the children. I hope you got the answer, because children work it at home mainly in gamification.
Regarding, I have one more doubt. Always a virtual game, or we can whether the teachers can plan physical activities too.
Pardon, I couldn't get it, you man.
Whether it is only, or whether the teachers can plan physical activities, physical games too.
Physical games you can plan, but physical games you will be taking in the school, right? Most of the physical games you will be taking in the school. At that time you have time for that. In this, what happens, you spend, I told you, in a month you spend only 2 periods in the school. And at the same time, children spend 3 hours every week at home, around 3 hours, and half an hour each or something. And while playing the game itself, the assessment also takes place, and you get the score also. Understand what concept the child understood, what concept the child didn't understand, as per the individual sheet you are getting. You will get individual sheet of assessment, and you can share the same assessment sheet with the parents also online. Parents have access to that once the IDs are created. Over to you, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I think our time has exceeded, sir. It's really nice of you. You have spent, actually the time told was till 11:30, but you have even spent 1 more hour. So I think I'll formally, myself will take this chance to formally wind up and say officially thanks to Radhakrishnan sir for presenting such a lovely session. For the time what we spent with you, I think each and every minute was very, very informative and power-packed. Thanks a lot, sir. We will always remain in touch with you. We need your guidance, this kind of new concepts we need to introduce to our teachers. So definitely we will remain in touch with you. I hope sir will be ready to offer us any kind of assistance that we need anytime. Yeah.
I am happy to work with you. There is no doubt. I am happy to associate with you. There is no doubt.
So
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On behalf of the entire team of Progressive, I once again officially thank Radhakrishnan sir for the session. Thank you very much, sir, and thank you, dear teachers. Thank you all
really
teachers.
I appreciate Abdul Salam sir, because I have never seen directors are sitting till the end.
Yes,
that really a surprise to me.
Okay.
He is interested in development of teachers and all, because right from the beginning to end he was there.
Yeah.
I'm also student, you know.
Yeah. We are all students. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
So, special thanks to Salam sir also for being with us, and your presence was really a motivating factor for all of us. I think all the teachers remain till the end of the program. So thank you, sir, once again.
Thank you.
And thank you, dear all the teachers for the program, for participating.
Thank you, all the participants. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thanks.
Thank you. Bye.